So we got China, Chinatown over there, China there, Little Italy there, Vietnam and Singapore is down there. The whole world is collapsed in upon itself. This is the space we're living in. This is my neighborhood right here. This is my neighborhood. I love it.
500 years ago, painters first used geometry to give perspective to the city of Florence. In New York City, another artist uses geometry to give a different kind of perspective to his world.
I think the main vehicle that artists use to communicate emotion is space. You could say the history of art is the history of different spaces. And these spaces are an embodiment of the mathematics of the time, of the geometry of the time. What four-dimensional geometry can do is give you a model of the complexity of the world that we live in. I came to New York in about '69 to be a painter, and I was doing complicated paintings with many spaces in them. But I never really saw the fourth dimension until I met Banshoff. It was as though I could plunge my hands through the computer screen and handle this four-dimensional cube like quicksilver, changing and turning inside out. For days, I dreamed only of these images rotating and turning inside out and behaving in these very mysterious and yet recognizable ways. The problem for the artist who wants to make art about space is to make space itself present, make space itself visible. This may appear to be diamonds, but I can rotate them to reveal that behind the diamond really a whole three-dimensional cell was hidden. They can be turned again in the fourth dimension to reveal that they really were sections of hypercubes. For 30,000 years, human beings have made patterns. It's some fundamental way that we have to organize and structure our experience. Making patterns can be the ideal way to define space. It'd be nice to just go out and buy a program that does this, but they're not for sale. I had to learn how to write these programs myself. I went back to school to learn computer programming. It was a tremendous task, but I really learned a lot about the mathematics by doing this. The plotter draws on a sheet of paper exactly what's on the screen. And I can use this as a study for a larger painting. To make a larger painting, I photograph these drawings and project it with a slide projector onto a larger screen where I can replicate what the plotter does. Each slide is its own complete three-dimensional space, and many slides make many different spaces in the same place at the same time. And these three-dimensional spaces can interpenetrate one another and can interweave and can overlap each other in paradoxical ways. It's the idea of having mastery over complexity. What the fourth dimension means is being in many spaces at the same time, or having many separate spaces superimposed and yet remaining distinct. I think we have a misunderstanding about seeing. We think we see the world out there with our eyes, and that this process is objective and automatic. In fact, we see with our minds. We go through life doing geometry. You know, Plato said that the gods are always doing geometry. We're always doing geometry. We go through life applying the geometry that we know on our visual world. And if it doesn't fit that geometry, we don't see it.
Layering four-dimensional shadows on a two-dimensional canvas, Tony Robbin explores new ways to link the spaces we imagine to the spaces that we live in.
A 100 years ago, visual models were not considered real mathematics. The truth was in an equation. It's a great privilege to be living at this time when so much of our high-level mathematics is a visual mathematics accessible to us all.
Like generations of artists before him, Tony Robbin uses geometry to create space on canvas.